Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is Rock Rocky Rocker. I'm your host, Dylan Sexton, coming to you from the Man Cave. Today I have a special guest host, my brother-in-law and good friend, Shawn Suppa.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk about a couple of things. First thing we're going to talk about is rock and roll journalism, and particularly magazines that we've read through the years and how we've kept up on music and gotten our music reviews. Shawn, what magazines have you read through the years? In particular, start with when you were in high school.
I read every Cream that came along, a little bit of Circus, and but Rolling Stone also.
Yeah, I read Cream and Circus, Rolling Stone, and you know I wasn't averse to metal, and back then Hit Parader was really big into metal. I don't know if Circus and Hit Parader are still around, or yeah, no, Cream's not, but Rolling Stone of course is. I got this issue of Cream off of eBay. I think I actually owned this back in 1982 when it came out.
I probably did.
Yeah? What did you like best about Cream? What was your...
I liked the letter section. I liked the fights between the metal guys and the punk guys, and I liked the pointed criticisms of the reviews and things like that. I was always reading the letter section first, but yeah, that was my favorite thing.
Yeah, and the only way I started getting into music when I lived in Germany, and mostly we just had hard rock and the traditional classic rock stuff. The only way I heard about punk rock was from Cream magazine. I mean, I'd see pictures of the Clash in Cream, and I just noticed something in here. Page 24. Willie DeVille.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, where did you ever hear of Willie DeVille ever, except for Cream magazine?
Right.
You know, but I guess Cream, I don't know when they went out of business, but I mean, right now, where are you getting your reviews?
Still Rolling Stone a bit, but their reviews are getting shorter and shorter, and sometimes hard to understand. But Amazon reviews, and basically just typing into Google and looking for reviews.
Yeah.
There's some YouTube channels that have good reviews.
Yeah.
And I like to hear reviews first, and I actually do go by that. Music and movies. I can go see the movie or buy the album off of the review, but I often find I didn't agree with it, but I do start there.
Right. You know, Rolling Stone was so important to me growing up. I mean, I get it. Especially back, you know, when it was like the newspaper print, you know, in the big format.
Oh, yeah.
Then it went to glossy, and it's sort of, and even for a while their reporting was not bad. I mean, I liked reading Hunter S. Thompson, and I liked P.J. O'Rourke and the others. It's kind of jumped the shark and got a little bit too political for me, and I'm really more focused on the music. So nowadays I'm getting most of my reviews from allmusic.com. And not only do I get a good review, but they've got samples of all the songs, so I can get a feel of it. I'll sit in here and in the Man Cave and bring up a band that I really don't know that much about, say, you know, the totality of. I'll like bring up Genesis and just go through one album after another and just click on samples and see, you know, what was this about? What was their first album about? So that's where I'm getting.
The power of the internet.
Exactly. I mean, the things are changing, you know, and that's print journalism is being changed by the internet. All right, now today's topic, other topic we're going to discuss is the Ramones. I've been a Ramones fan for a really long time. I mean, it seems like a serious music fan would have to have some appreciation for the Ramones. When did you first start listening to the Ramones?
I can't really remember when. I remember seeing Rock and Roll High School, which was very strange.
Did you see it in the movie theater?
No, I saw it on TV, I believe, and it was very strange, and I was definitely interested in, and I'm sure I was hearing them all the time.
Right.
But I didn't get focused on them until that. I can't say I bought albums one after another by the Ramones, but I'm sure I was buying them here and there.
Right.
So I'll definitely saw them first in Rock and Roll High School.
Yeah. But for the uninitiated, I guess, just a brief overview. They were formed in Queens, New York, Forest Hills neighborhood in 1974. Their first album, The Ramones, came out in 1976. And of course, it was nothing like anything that had ever come out beforehand. Really fast songs, really short. It was basically punk. It was the definition of punk. They were, you know, I mean, some will argue it was the Stooges or MC5 or something like that, but punk was basically, in my book, the Ramones were ground zero, and CBGB's, of course, where they were playing. You know, they went through many different producers over the years. The sort of the joke is that they made the same album over and over again, which is not true, because they went through different producers, and the producers put different spins on, like, I mean, Phil Spector, you know, who produced Into the Century, right? And then Graham Gouldman, who was from 10cc, produced my favorite Ramones album, and the Ramones album through which I was introduced to them was Pleasant Dreams. And this was produced by Graham Gouldman. And following a trend through my life, this is my favorite Ramones album. It's also, like most hardcore Ramones albums, I mean, it's also most hardcore Ramones fans' least favorite albums. I seem to have a habit of attaching myself to albums that hardcore fans don't like.
So were you into Down in the Groove by Dylan?
I love Down in the Groove by Dylan, and Knocked Out Loaded. And, you know, you go anywhere and people are like,
It's sometimes good to get in on their worst album because it only gets better from there.
I sincerely don't see anything wrong with either of those albums. And Pleasant Dreams has some really good stuff on it. It has The KKK Took My Baby Away, which was, you know, I learned today, erroneously linked to Johnny stealing Joey's girlfriend at the time. I mean, Johnny and I don't know her name, they eventually got married. But, I mean, she was going out with Joey first, and then she left Joey and went out with Johnny. I guess that kind of crossed the line, and so their friendship was essentially over at that time. Didn't you hear them yelling at each other on the radio once?
Yeah, I used to hear them on Howard Stern, and it was really ugly. The interesting thing was, while it was really ugly and hard to listen to, and it was like a car crash, you could tell that they were very close at the same time. They argued like brothers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had to work together for many years, even probably after when you heard that.
Yeah, nobody but Howard could bring out that ugliness in somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think over the years I probably owned 2 or 3 albums, but as for right now, I own a CD copy of Pleasant Dreams, but I also got this Ramones anthology put out by Rhino Records. It's got 58 songs on it, basically covers their whole career. And I remember right before they retired, when their last album came out in 1995, Adios Amigos, listening to a song of it on the radio, and it was just so good that they did a cover of Tom Waits' I Don't Want to Grow Up.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that song.
Yeah.
I would just turn it up, especially if I was in the car, especially if I was in the car, turn that up. That was such a good song. And on that album, they also did a cover of Ramones was written by Lemmy of Motorhead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about, I don't know, a minute and a half long, and you know the instrumental break. There's no, you know, of course Johnny Ramone, the guitar player, notoriously hated guitar solos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so the guitar break in this song is basically just 2 chords back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back.
Well, that's interesting because I like Road to Ruin, and it was their first, what you might call, their fans wanted to call a sellout record, because it had guitar solos. And it had somebody, and I suspect it wasn't Johnny, bending guitar notes.
Oh.
It's not listed anywhere, but I really suspect that Johnny was not the one bending the guitar notes and sliding up and down the guitar. So yeah, definitely Johnny played one way, and that was where they got their sound from. I mean, the legend is, or the explanation is, that Johnny could only strum down. He couldn't strum back up.
Right.
I think he learned a little bit of it later, because you could hear it. But that's where they got their sound from. And they were basically taking 60s pop, because Joey and Dee Dee were writing, and they were big into 60s pop. They could have been sitting in the Brill Building with some of these melodies that they wrote.
Yeah.
They could have been sitting in the Brill Building, not necessarily with the lyrics that they were writing, but definitely with the melodies.
Melodies. And even some of them, on Pleasant Dreams, the pop sensibilities on Pleasant Dreams, which I guess maybe is what turns a lot of people off, is so evident. And
Bands got to evolve.
Yeah,
it's got to be allowed to evolve.
They did, and unfortunately now they've all gone. All the originals are gone. You know, Joey died in 2001. I don't know what he died of.
Well, he was a very sick guy most
Yeah.
of his life.
Yeah.
I said it was cancer, from what I understood.
Yeah. Johnny died of prostate cancer in 2004. Tommy died in 2014, the drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dee Dee, 2002. I don't know what he died of, but he had a problem with heroin for a while, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
he was into a lot of drugs.
What we have left is Marky, who you know is in the Hall of Fame,
Mm-hmm.
along with Tommy as a drummer, and then
So there was a drummer named Richie.
Richie, right? So anyway, did you ever see them live?
No, I never got to see him live. I wasn't really going to concerts. I went to one or two in high school. I didn't go to a lot of concerts till I met you, actually.
Right.
Did you get to see him live?
I actually saw them one time in 1992 at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, California. It was a pretty good show. In fact, it was a great show. I was happy to have seen the Ramones. The only problem was some friends of mine had promised to meet me there, and so for most of the show, I was sort of off to the side, you know, every now and then looking at the door, worried that I was going to miss them coming in. Eventually, I just decided, you know, they're not coming. So I moved to the center and had the full-on Ramones experience. Dee Dee wasn't in the band at the time, and CJ had taken his place, but I didn't feel like I was cheated. It was a great show. It was a good Ramones show. I'm satisfied with it. Oh, and as a bonus, the opening act was Social Distortion.
Didn't they have a comic book?
You know, as a matter of fact, the Ramones did have a comic book. Kiss is not the only band who has comics these days. There's actually the Ramones meet the Archies. Isn't that amazing?
That's crazy.
It blows my mind. Well, I mean, who's next? Blue Oyster Cult meets Casper? Pretty cool. So anyway, getting back to the movie, Rock and Roll High School. I've got the DVD.
Roger Corman.
Roger Corman, right? I don't know. This movie was probably made for like $10,000, but to me it's a must see. If you're a rock and roll fan, especially a Ramones fan, you've got to see this movie. I think maybe this was the first time I ever heard of the Ramones. I just moved to the United States from Germany. I was living in El Paso, and I was in journalism class, and some guy was complaining about this movie. It was in the theaters at the time, and he said the only reason they made that movie was to promote the Ramones. And I'm thinking, who are the Ramones? You know, I was listening to Molly Hatchet at the time, so I wasn't exactly familiar with the Ramones.
Well, it was also frustrating because that could have been true. They were always trying to break through, and they never really fully broke through.
Yeah, I think I read that their highest charting album was like number 54, but they had, I can't believe that, you know, it's like a lot like that with a lot of bands. I mean, really, these albums are so good. What are you gonna do? Well, I guess that's all for today. That's all for this episode of Rock Rocking Rocker. I'd like to thank my special co-host, Shawn Suppa. And
thanks for having me.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you like this episode, if you like Rock Rocking Rocker, please give us a like below or subscribe. If you really like us, again, send us beer koozies. And that's it for today. Thanks for joining us, brothers and sisters.
This episode of Rock Rockin' Rocker is brought to you by Melt Candles and Wax. Melt has a scent for every season. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and shop Melt Candles and Wax on Etsy. We're hand poured with love.